talk, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a story like that too, and I feel this too, and you don't know where to really begin. But I was just talking to Sarah in her studio upstairs, and one of the things, as I was walking, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't prepare for a studio visit. Like, what can I say to you that would be beneficial to your practice or to tomorrow, you know? And it took me back to this moment that I had with court when I was a junior. I'd been talking about wanting to do graffiti art and street art and referencing this like great big world that's beyond Davidson and North Carolina, because Kingston is home and New York was another kind of base, and I wanted something that was edgy and exciting, and I just couldn't find it here because we're here, right? I was making these paintings on like, you know, small canvases in my studio, tiny brushes, very carefully cutting out what looked like graffiti and street art. And he was like, man, like. So that was on a Wednesday. Friday morning, I go to my studio. There are 2 big sheets of plywood, 4 by 8 feet, with a note from court. He's like, go for it, go big. Really? Class on Wednesday. But I had to start using my body, and I had to sort of, you know, I would call myself a high school athlete that retired early. But I played sports all throughout Davidson, pickup, intramural club. And so I was very used to doing things with my body. And in the studio, I found myself like this. And that's not how I express myself, right? Like, you can see me talking now. I'm here and happen to be sort of a big personality with my friends. And it just, I needed to be moving and in motion and sort of upfront and live action. So working on those 2 massive paintings really kind of gave me permission to connect physically, right? To sort of like have the embodiment of all the things I was thinking about on the surface of the canvas. Loved it, worked with Leah for the first time, setting up across the hall there. It's like, oh my God, a gallery show, like, this is sick, right? And then you leave. It's painting in Charlotte. Yeah, it hits you real quick, right? So I'm painting in Charlotte at the Children's Theater, and I'm working next to people who, some didn't graduate high school, some went to community college, some didn't care about a college degree, some really picked up their skills because they didn't have another choice but to do this kind of work. And I'm learning so much from them day in, day out. I'm thinking to myself, like, I didn't have to go to Davidson to do this, right? Like, but it's that, what I got here was the appreciation for everything else outside of my art practice, right? I had friends doing history, creative writing, physics, econ, like all the different things that kind of I was curious about, but was never obligated to be good at. So I could steal the parts that made sense to me or that sort of fit the thing I was interested in, right, discussing. And a lot of that kind of took me back to the human experience. And I don't mean that in this like philosophical, like, you know, sociology kind of way, but literally like, I'm standing here and you're standing there, and what's happening in between us, right? Hagit Barkai was my painting sort of instructor here, and one day my friend Perry and I were standing next to each other. He was an art history major, like one of the few collabs across the discipline at my time. But he and I are standing next together to each other, and we're like really close. And Hagit's like, oh, you guys are really cozy over there. I'm like, it kind of made me like uncomfortable. I'm like, so she brought it up in my meeting with her, like in this seminar. She's like, why'd that make you uncomfortable? Like, what's at stake? I was like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't thinking of it that way, and you got made me think of it that way. She goes, was that a problem? I'm like, no, it's not a problem. We're having this back and forth, and it sounds like it's a problem, you know? And so she's like, well, what's at stake? What if you painted yourself leaning up another, like one of your guy friends, right, in a very cozy, like sort of comfortable way? And she's like, what if your mom saw it? Like, don't matter. Like, what if your grandma saw it? Well, she has some questions. What if your friends saw it back home? Well, I have to explain a lot of things, right? So she forced me to think about the image I was producing and the looking experience of everyone else in that sort of moment, right? Whether 3 seconds or 3 minutes or 3 hours, like how are other people interacting with the subjects in my work? And so, you know, that was 2015. I go to grad school, 2018, 2 years of kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't go there to learn to paint better because I figured I could figure it out. but materials became really important to me. For an entire year, didn't paint. It was cardboard, plastic, rubber, wire mesh, like anything from construction sites or the home, like any kind of debris from daily life. I was doing these sort of wall-mounted constructions, what do you call them, like assemblages, right? And I really enjoyed it, having to figure out how to get a old coffee cup to stand on the side of a half of a tire and embed some piece of like ceramic thing, and right, like that problem solving of the physical was super just engaging for me, and I didn't have to think. It was spontaneous, it was exciting. I couldn't pre-plan it, but I'm a painter at heart, and I had to figure out a way to go back to pictures, because at the time, you know, this is somewhere between 2016 and 2020, Black bodies and Black stories in galleries were just, right? You could not buy it for anything that previously, like, we couldn't even convince people to think of those prices for art. And it wasn't about the money, but for some reason, there was this validation of anything brown skinned on a canvas was now good. And I had a big problem with that because it didn't feel like there was a critical relationship to the work. It was just, if it is, then it's good. If it's from this place, it's good. If it's about these things, it's good. And I just, if that's what I was stepping into, then what was gonna challenge me? What was gonna force me to like have a genuine relationship to my practice? And so the one promise I made to myself was, all right, cool, get rid of brown skin. Not because I didn't want to celebrate Black life and Jamaican life and the diaspora that I met in California and when I traveled to places like Ghana and Colombia, but I just wanted to step beyond that immediate recognition. So aluminum kind of showed up as a very, very convenient material for me. You know, we drink soda, seltzer, beer. I ordered a ton of Chipotle when we bake at home, right? So all those tins, storing them out for years, and like someone took a lot of time to design those things very well, right? Like these are high grade sort of materials that they do not go away, right? Like if you throw it away, it's just gonna live somewhere on the earth as long as it wants to. But there's a lot of care and effort made into designing these things. And so I thought, well, why don't we just keep using them, keep finding the value in them? Just because the substance of the container is gone, it doesn't mean that the vessel was now valueless, right? And so I can make all these metaphors to Black labor and, you know, sort of the effort my mom put into raising me, and just because I left the house, does that mean I don't carry my own training with me, right? Little things like that. And so I just love this material. And, you know, it's shiny, it's kind of sexy. It's like things in jewelry boxes when you go into to high-end stores, but at the same time, you know, if I'm in Jamaica, I go to a dance hall party, when that light hits you, it's your turn to perform, and you better dance. But when it's gone, you can just get back to chilling, and you're in the corner, and you don't have to do too much. So there's this very like ritualistic relationship that I have to light back home, but then, you know, conversations about being seen, being ignored, being overlooked. And yeah, it just kind of lends itself to all these metaphors, and you know, it can be percussive, it's recyclable, it's waterproof, it's conductive, it's just, you can keep going. And so it really offered a convenient and exciting way for me to tackle the human body. I won't make you move, you'll see it eventually. There are portraits on the other side of the wall where I've cropped really closely at the eyes. Conveniently, this was at a time when everyone was wearing masks. So people thought I was trying to do this thing where I was like, revealing the mouth, and it's about smiles, and we can't see each other. No, it's not that. I had this big painting of my family, my dad, my mom, my aunt, at my grandma's dining table. My grandpa's kind of in the background, a little silhouette of him, and I'm gonna put the shadow of my grandmother in it to show that she's in the room as well. And the bodies are constructed with the metal, but the faces are just black right now. And I really could never come to terms with creating something that looked like them, because I wanted to be of them. I couldn't put that into the world. Like for some reason, I just felt weird giving you that much of such an intimate space for me, especially a space that I no longer have access to in the way that I want to. So I just never finished it. It's literally in my studio right now. I put everything in front of it and I paint and I ship stuff out, but since 2019, I haven't been able to finish that piece. But what it did was it forced me to try and solve it elsewhere. So I started making these portraits where I cropped the face, and what it did was it gave you a chance to kind of finish the image with me, right? Like some of them, if especially if kids are seeing it, they go, "Oh, is that LeBron James, or is that this other guy?" Or is that, "Oh, that looks like my uncle," or "Oh, that's my brother." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. Like, who else?" But I like that little bit of play that you get by forcing someone else to. They don't get to grab and go the way that we can with very recognizable images, and sometimes you don't linger long enough with the thing. You don't ask questions about who they are, what they're doing, what they're feeling, where why this dynamic. And so I just really enjoyed that. And yeah, so I made that series because my family hasn't been together like that in a very long time, in that place that I love. And so this is the first time that I could this is like a documentation of the moment of me now trying to reconnect with as many of them as possible. The two gold figures are my sister and my grandma who passed, so they're not gonna show up to that party, but here they are. I'm thinking of them and they're a part of me, and whatever comes next, I would like to think that it's because of the yearning for this kind of like homecoming moment, I guess. Yeah, so.